What's going on, guys? Today we got a completely different video. Now, with all the immigration and emigration going on in Ireland and a lot of controversy surrounding different countries, you know, Israel, all these different things going on right now, today is the perfect time to understand exactly where my ancestors came from, okay? This is the history of Irish immigrants around the world. So currently, guys, I live in Ireland, have lived there my whole entire life. My dad's ancestors all Irish. Alright, my last name is Walsh, which is like a super Irish name, right? It's like the third most common last name in Ireland behind, I think it's like O'Sullivan, Murphy, and Kelly. Oh no, Kelly, Murphy, and O'Sullivan. I think Walsh is like the fourth most common name in Ireland. So this one should be super, super unique. Never really, researched too much of the Irish immigration that happened around the world. But this one should be incredible, guys. This is an excerpt taken from the Book of Migrations and Cultures. Never heard of that before. This is Thomas Sowell. And yeah, let's get it, guys. Make sure to leave a comment down below. Tell me tell me where your ancestors are from, guys. My ancestors are Irish Slovak, so let's get it.
The British people may be divided along many lines other than purely ethnic lines. Nor are these other divisions any less sharply contrasting. Just as the Irish, the Scots, the Welsh, and the English have had different histories at home and overseas, so have different people from contrasting regions of England, contrasting regions of Scotland, or the peoples of what has been loosely called the Celtic Fringe as a whole, as compared to those from the more anglicized parts of the British Isles. Like other culturally distinctive groups, the Irish have taken their way of life with them around the world. Whether at home or abroad, the distinctive behavior patterns of the Irish have been striking, though not all these patterns remained unchanged over the generations. The Irish immigrant generations of the 19th century, whether in Britain or the United States, were largely an unskilled urban proletariat, settling in large cities, but living a way of life more suited to the rural world from which they came.
Okay, so we would immigrate and we would do all the kind of non-educated jobs, which is kind of insulting, but at the end of the day, guys, that's kind of where Ireland was. It wasn't the most developed country in the world, especially as Ireland is such a really old country, guys. Okay, we grew, grains and, raised cattle, shit like that, so.
For example, 19th century Irish city dwellers kept pigs and fowl and disposed of their garbage in the streets, whether in America or England. Not surprisingly, in both countries, cholera and other filth-related diseases struck Irish neighborhoods particularly hard. Fighting and widespread alcoholism were also hallmarks of the Irish abroad, as in Ireland itself. The occupation...
So, right here, guys, we have a study. This looks like it's from the BMJ, or the World Health Organization. Looks like a study done 1945 to 1975, a great race of drinkers, Irish interpretations of alcoholism and drinking stereotypes. So yeah, we obviously got, that big stereotype. It says that we have a prevalence of Irish alcohol-related psychiatric admissions in the US. These studies seem to suggest that the Irish as a race had a remarkable relationship with drink, therefore reinforcing the enduring drunken Irish stereotype. By the 1960s, the alleged Irish susceptibility to alcoholism gained increasing attention from researchers and officials in Ireland itself. So yeah, we obviously like to fight drink, Conor McGregor type of thing, right? McGregor is the greatest Irish patriot that Ireland has ever seen, guys, obviously, apart from Mike Collins, obviously.
Abroad, as in Ireland itself. The occupational distribution of the Irish living in 19th century Philadelphia was very similar to that of the Irish living in London at the same time. Much the same story could be told of the Irish in Australia, though here a significant number settled in rural areas. The great majority of Irish men in Australia were labourers, and the great majority of Irish women were servants.
As they still are today, guys. I would say that if you have a labouring job in 2023 and you're not getting paid relatively good for it, it's very tough. Very, very tough. And a lot of people move. Ireland now is completely immigrated. None of my friends are here anymore, guys. Very, very few anyway. And if they are, they have doctors or lawyers or something very, very high tech. Any sort of person that isn't working as a big career type job, I would say they're kind of gone, or else they've had families, right? But most people my age have gone, right, to Australia or to Canada.
Servants. As late as the 1880s and 1890s, more than 95% of Irish women working in Australia were domestic servants, as were a similar proportion of Irish women working in the United States at that time. In Argentina, however, the availability of land grants drew many of the Irish immigrants away from their initial settlement in Buenos Aires. The Irish who left the city often formed communities where Irish names continued to predominate even in the 20th century.
Yeah, it's incredible, guys. A lot of football players on the Argentinian team, one in particular, he is completely Irish, man. His ancestors are from Dublin. And everyone's like, dude, you're Irish? And, it's really crazy to see, like, his great-grandmother or something was Irish. Something was crazy.
Surviving initially very difficult conditions as shepherds on a sharecropping basis with the sheep owners in the early 19th century, the Irish prospered as international demand for Argentine wool and sheep increased. The Catholic Church was a central feature of Irish life, at home and abroad. The Church played a major role in the social development of Irish immigrants and their assimilation to higher standards of education and behavior, so that the Irish of later generations became much more socially accepted in the larger societies in which they lived in Britain, Australia, and the United States. In Argentina, however, Irish Catholic organizations kept the immigrants a separate community, fearing that they might otherwise degenerate to the level of the surrounding Argentines, even though the latter were also Catholic. Arriving Irish immigrants were met at the dock, the men steered toward jobs with Irish employers, and the women toward marriage with established Irish immigrants who had arrived before them, and the children of these marriages were educated in English-speaking Irish Catholic parochial schools. The newspapers the immigrants read in Argentina were English-language papers, dealing with news from the particular counties from which they had come in Ireland. These cultural enclaves began to be broken up only after the rise to power of Juan Perón near the middle of the 20th century, leading to the end of specifically Irish schools. Around the world, the Irish have been especially successful in fields requiring insights into human relations, politics, writing, law, labor union leadership, rather than fields requiring mathematical, scientific, or entrepreneurial aptitudes. The organizational skills of the Irish, developed while maintaining their own underground religious and secular institutions in Ireland, proved to be a major factor in their advancement to leadership positions in labor unions and in politics in urban communities, whether in Britain, the United States, Australia, or Canada. Of 110 labor union presidents in the American Federation of Labor in 1900, more than 50 were Irish. Irish control of American big city political machines in the 19th century was scattered literally from coast to coast.
That's incredible. So a lot of our people that immigrated to America were actually working in unions and were presidents of unions. That's incredible because obviously they knew what it was like to have an upbringing like as hard as it was.
Whether in the U.S., Britain, or Australia, Irish politicians tended to be concentrated on the left, but the pragmatic left, concerned with obtaining immediate, tangible benefits for their working-class constituencies, rather than an eventual reconstitution of society along ideologically defined lines. In Britain, the Irish have been concentrated in the Labour Party, in the U.S., in the Democratic Party, and in Australia, in the Australian Labour Party. There were 4 second-generation Irish prime ministers of Australia who dominated politics in that country during the era from 1929 to 1949. Britain and Canada have also had Irish prime ministers. The United States elected its first Irish president in 1960.
He's one of the greatest Irish, people of all time as well, guys. John F. Kennedy was a legend.
And its second in 1980.
Yeah, it's incredible, guys. 1980, who's he talking about? Carter? Who's he talking about? Yeah, he's talking about someone, guys, obviously the history of Irish people is so well written down because Irish immigrants went everywhere. We're some of the biggest immigrants in the world. I suppose any one time in your period of history, you have to be an immigrant at some stage, okay? Like, that's kind of how it is, Some people, they immigrate in 2023, but some people emigrate in 1940 or 1920. You know, so it is what it is, guys. Or you can go as far back as the Vikings. You know, people immigrated all the time. So really cool history. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. I think that's super unique. I've never actually heard that before, that we were big, you know, in the U.S. because of things like, you know, obviously unions and stuff like that. So that's why we always join the Democrats rather than the Republicans. Absolutely incredible, guys. Let me know down below. I love you guys all. I'll see you on the next one, man.